Hi there. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host, Praying Medic. Here's today's message. Hey everyone, how are you doing? In this message, I'd like to do something a little different. Due to the popularity of last week's prophetic update on President Trump, this week I'll be giving you another update on President Trump and specifically Rex Tillerson, our new Secretary of State. Today is Friday, January 3rd. And I had a dream last night about President Trump and Rex Tillerson and a potential problem that may be coming in the future. Before I go into the dream, I'd like to do a little bit of teaching on the nature of dreams and what dreams are all about. Many people in the Bible had dreams from God. Those dreams included dreams of direction, dreams of warning. Many times, angels of God appeared to give people messages in dreams. I've had a lot of dreams over the last 8 years. Most of the dreams we have are symbolic. And most of the dreams we have pertain to us. The reason why God gives us symbolic dreams is to draw us into a closer relationship with Him. He wants us to come to Him and ask Him about the meaning of the dreams. And the only way we can do that is to enter into a conversation with the Holy Spirit where we ask questions and He gives answers. The interpretation of dreams comes from the Lord. He gives the dreams and He gives us understanding of what they mean. A lot of people don't have dreams very regularly, and what I would recommend to them is if you're not having dreams right now, just ask for them. And if you don't have a dream tonight, keep asking. And if you don't have a dream tomorrow, keep asking. If you keep asking for revelation from God, He'll give it to you. When you do have dreams, try to remember them. I recommend waking up as soon as you have a dream, if you can. Keep something by your bed to journal your dreams, whether you use a notepad or some people use computers. However you record your dreams is fine, but I would recommend having some way to record your dreams and make a journal of them. I've noticed that over the years, the nature of my dreams has changed. Many times when I look back at my dreams, I'll find something that happened that was shown to me ahead of time in a dream, but I didn't realize it at the time. I only saw it when I looked back. As we pay attention to our dreams, as we focus on them, as we are obedient to them, God will give us more dreams. You remember in the parable of the talents, the Lord gave 1 talent to a servant, 2 talents to another servant, and 5 talents to a third servant. Then he went away for a while, and when he came back, he asked the servants what they did with their talents. The servant who had 5 talents made 5 more. The servant who had 2 talents made 2 more. They were good stewards. They invested and they multiplied what the Lord had given them. The servant who had 1 talent, buried it in the ground, didn't do anything with it. So the Lord took that talent away and gave it to the one who had 5. Well, what does that tell us? That means that if we are faithful, if we steward, if we take what the Lord has given us and we use it wisely, He will give us more. So if you get dreams, if you have visions, write them down, pray into them. Do your best to engage God and engage His kingdom regarding the revelation you receive. The kind of dreams you have is dependent upon your sphere of influence. Most of us start out having dreams just for us, dreams that instruct us about our gifting, our calling, maybe some issues that we struggle with, where the Lord is trying to help us grow in our identity and understand our relationship with Him and our relationship to our family and friends. But as we grow in spiritual maturity, our sphere of influence grows. It's relational. So as we develop a larger sphere of influence, a larger circle of friends, we may start having dreams about other people. Sometimes those dreams are prophetic revelation that are instructional, directional, or dreams that encourage other people. When I first started having dreams, most of them were related to the subject of healing. But I also have a lot of dreams that are related to politics. That's my metron, or my sphere of influence. So the Lord has given me quite a few dreams about politics over the last few years. And in the last 6 months, many of those dreams have been about Donald Trump. If you follow my blog, if you listen to my podcasts, you know that I'm very interested in what the Lord is saying about Donald Trump. As I've said before, I was not initially a Donald Trump supporter. When I first heard that he was running for president, I was supporting someone else. But during the election campaign, I asked the Lord to give me revelation about who He wanted to be president, about His pick. And He chose someone different. So rather than stick with my own candidate, I got on board with the candidate that I believe the Lord wanted to become president, and I believe that is Donald Trump. My friends and I have had hundreds of dreams about Donald Trump, and it's interesting because in many of the dreams, Donald Trump is portrayed in ways that you can't see in the natural. In the natural, people tend to see him as gruff, unpolished, insensitive, harsh. But in the dreams that people have had, almost all of them portray him to be a very kind, a very warm, loving, sincere, even very spiritual person. The dreams portray him very differently from how he is portrayed by the media and how people perceive him externally. I was initially reluctant to talk much about the dreams that I've had about Donald Trump, but I realized I needed to be obedient to the revelation that God has given me. Now, a lot of people who follow my podcasts, read my books, and read my articles prefer to have me writing and talking about healing and the supernatural. I love writing about those things, and I love talking about them, but I feel like I have to be obedient to the revelation God is giving me. And right now, a lot of that revelation has to do with politics. The podcast I did last week was very popular. It was shared a lot on social media, and it seems like there are a lot of people who are interested in this subject. So this week, I'm going to provide another prophetic update on Donald Trump and his administration. There are a lot of people who don't believe that God is interested in politics or in the kingdoms of earth. I believe that God is interested in politics. I believe he sets up leaders and rulers in the earth to accomplish his goals. Romans 13, verse 1 says, "Everyone must submit to governing authorities. All authority comes from God, and those who are in positions of authority have been placed there by God." The Apostle Paul tells us to pray for our leaders and that leaders are established by God. I do believe that God places leaders in positions of authority to accomplish his will. And I happen to be one of the people who's receiving revelation from God about one particular leader. So if you're interested in politics or if you're interested in prophetic revelation about Donald Trump, you'll be seeing a lot more of that in my messages in the future. A couple of months ago, I began following a guy named Adam Gingrich, who goes by the name of John Wick of Politics on Twitter. Adam is what I would call a political insider. He has worked in the world of politics for 20 years. He is very well versed in politics and how the political scene is run both nationally and on the state level. Adam does Periscope updates about 3 times a week, and my wife and I have been listening to his Periscopes for a couple of months. He is very insightful, has a lot of great information. He's one of the few political insiders who is willing to talk publicly about what goes on at the state and at the national level in politics. When I tune into his Periscopes, I learn a lot about what is happening on a weekly basis with votes, what's going on in the House and the Senate. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about politics, I would definitely recommend tuning into Adam's Periscopes. I will leave links in the podcast notes for people who need some help finding that. Adam has also found that there's a growing interest in politics, even after the election. And this is an interesting phenomenon. Normally, after a presidential election, there isn't a sustained interest in politics. But this year in particular, there are a lot more people who are interested in what is happening politically. I found myself tuning into Sean Spicer's daily press conference updates on Facebook, just because I'm interested in what is going on in the White House and what's going on in the Trump administration. It seems like there are a lot more people who are interested in what is happening in the political world. Part of that, I think, is because Donald Trump is such a populist candidate. He was on a reality TV show, so a lot of people are familiar with him, and a lot of people don't like him, but obviously there are a lot of people who do like him, and I think he's going to be a great leader. And in my opinion, the press has made him a hot topic. When he first announced his candidacy, the press did their best to try to cast him in a bad light. It seems like everything the press did to try to make Trump look like an illegitimate candidate backfired. That's why he ended up being president. They gave him just enough publicity to, I think, draw some sympathy from voters who felt like he was being treated unfairly. It's no secret that the mainstream media is losing favor. And one of the things that Adam Gingrich is doing with his new website, Wick Media Nation, he's collaborating with some friends who are going to create a platform to talk about politics and international news. They want to provide a different view of what's happening in the world of politics. As part of the new media, people like Adam and myself are creating these platforms where we are giving people information about politics and international news that kind of falls outside the realm of the mainstream media. And that brings us to the subject of my dream last night. If you've been following news, you know that there is a growing controversy between China and the United States regarding the islands that they've been building up in the South China Sea. The territory in the South China Sea is international territory, but China has been building man-made islands complete with airstrips and anti-aircraft artillery. There are many nations who have claims to this territory, but China is the only one that has gone ahead and seems to be developing it with plans to use it for industry and potentially for the military. As Adam pointed out in his Periscope last night, one of the first things that Rex Tillerson, as the Secretary of State, is going to have to do is confront China over the buildup in the South China Sea in international territory. China is trying to claim this territory for itself, and if the United States and other nations allow them to do that, that severely restricts the ability for companies and nations to do international trade. So Tillerson, as Secretary of State, needs to find a way to confront China, to get them to negotiate and come off of this position on these islands that they built up. And that is going to be a very difficult proposition because China has spent a lot of money and a lot of time building these islands. The situation in the South China Sea has the potential to create war between China and the United States. And that is something that nobody wants to see happen. Last night, I had a dream where I saw a number of President Trump's cabinet members, and they were taking heat over various issues. The main person that I saw in the dream was Rex Tillerson. He was coming under quite a bit of fire, both from the press and from international leaders, over a position that he took on an issue. And I think it has to do with the South China Sea. The interesting thing about the dream was I saw how President Trump supported Rex Tillerson. Now, if you know much about politics, you know that a lot of political leaders will gauge their responses based on how they think they're going to be perceived by voters. Because for most politicians, it's all about maintaining popularity with voters. If you lose popularity with voters, you don't get reelected. Well, Donald Trump is not an average politician. I've noticed in watching him that he tends to be very loyal, even if it causes him some unpopularity. And in the dream, Donald Trump was fiercely loyal to Rex Tillerson. He displayed a lot more loyalty than you would expect from a regular politician. Trump was backing Tillerson to the hilt on his position. And in the dream, that seemed to give Tillerson a lot of confidence in taking the position that he needed to. I think the dream is a prophetic look at one of the issues we're going to see in the next few weeks, which is as Rex steps into his position as Secretary of State, he is going to have to face down China with this issue. And I think we need to pray for President Trump, for Rex Tillerson. I think we need to pray for the entire administration that they would be given divine insights, that they would be given wisdom, that they would be given patience to navigate these waters carefully, firmly, and fairly without just saying or doing anything that's going to cause a war. I think we also need to be praying for international leaders, leaders in Europe and leaders in China. As the South China Sea becomes an international issue of greater concern, I think we all need to be in prayer over the situation. I'm going to leave it up to you to be led by the Holy Spirit, but I would ask you to pray for peace, pray for wisdom, and pray that our leaders would do the right things in the coming weeks. Thanks for dropping by. I hope you enjoyed today's message. You might consider sharing it with your friends. You can do that through the links provided below the video. If you have questions or comments, my email address is admin@prayingmedic.com. If you haven't visited my website, I have a lot of articles and videos there that you might want to check out. It's www.prayingmedic.com. You can also connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for dropping by, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel.